as a state recognised before Donald Trump leaves. On North Sea oil, Donald Trump was saying, drill, baby, drill. There's so much to unpack. Chris Hope, talk us through it.
I think that's right.
Well, I thought that point there, your first point on the small boat issue, was most resonant. The President said, you have people coming in, and I told the PM I would stop it. Donald Trump told Sir Keir Starmer, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military. It doesn't matter what means you use, because it destroys countries from within. And now we're removing the people that came into the country in the US. That's what he means there. He's very clear. Why not call out the military? Let's have a listen to what you have to say.
About investment into the UK and vice versa to the US, the various deals like that. Much of that, of course, is...
It doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use, but it's going to destroys countries from within. And we're actually now removing a lot of the people that came into our country. It's a very hard chore. We were given a very, very bad hand. Millions of people came in from prisons and mental institutions. We have to remove them. And we are removing them. We have no choice, and I feel very strongly about it.
So that's it, a lesson now on controlling the small boats crisis on the very day that one person, I think of Indian origin, was sent back to France, and that was billed, of course, by Sir Keir Starmer as his scheme working. Also on the issue of wind farms, yet again, we know he hates them. Donald Trump, not a big fan. Wind is a very expensive joke, he said. We have a very good asset, he says, in the UK, and it's called the North Sea, didn't he? And he made very clear the North Sea oil is phenomenal. He said, my mother was born in Scotland, in the Hebrides. That's serious, you know, it's a serious Scotland we're talking about. I want this country to do well. He loves this country. That's very clear from what you were saying there. And in fact, the entire visit, he looked, in parts, deeply moved. Martin, you saw him, of course, in Windsor yesterday when he met the King and the Queen. You have great assets, he said. You've got to start using, I believe, under this Prime Minister. Drill, baby, drill, he told our Prime Minister. Also, Vladimir Putin over Ukraine has really let me down. I think it looks like we're seeing Donald Trump come back to where the UK has been for many months now. He's killing many people, and he's losing more people than he's killing. I mean, frankly, Russian soldiers are being killed at a higher rate than the Ukrainian soldiers, and that is the concern, the clear concern. And that question from Bev Turner on faith, we heard in response Sir Keir Starmer saying, I'm a Christian, I was christened, although he does, of course, observe the Jewish faith on Fridays. Interesting to hear him talk about his faith, which we haven't heard before from this Prime Minister. Overall, though, this visit, away from the pomp and circumstance, Martin, is about trade, is about jobs in this country. £250 billion worth of trade deals agreed. We've always been friends. Donald Trump said he called Sir Keir Starmer a tough negotiator who got a better deal than he would have got. That was denied by Keir Starmer. But we're seeing an economic security deal signed soon, as well as this £250 billion tech deal. Clearly, the special relationship is moving out of defence and security and into trade and jobs. And again, it goes back to where is our role in the world? Are we going towards the European Union or the US? It feels now, today, in Chequers, like it's the US.
Chris, one final question before you go. As we see there, those live pictures of Air Force One on the tarmac there at Stansted, we're awaiting Marine One, the presidential helicopter, to hove into view to drop off the President and the First Lady. Air Force One is there. Let's face it, it's Air Farce One for Sir Keir Starmer, this preposterous situation where a solitary Indian illegal immigrant has been flown to Paris at the 4th attempt today. Why on earth couldn't that individual have been flown directly back to India without us having to take an asylum seeker from Paris in return, is a question that will haunt the Prime Minister, I'm sure, once the sun has set on this state visit. But the problems are real for the Prime Minister. They won't go away. And many people watching today's press conference, Chris Hope, will say, why can't we have a leader like Donald Trump, who says zero immigration is a must, illegal immigration rots the country from within, and if necessary, deploy the military?
Well, quite. That's a great question. Unanswered. I mean, we heard from the Prime Minister saying that around 6 a.m. today, the first flight took off, taking a single migrant arrived here in August back to France. This migrant, we understand, was originally from India. Why not fly him to India? Well, he came here from France, so it's a French problem now. But yeah, if you step back, why can't we see firmer action involving the military? Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, he has said as much. Zia Youssef, in charge of policy at Reform, he has said as much. America is not tied into the European Convention on Human Rights, the right, Article 8, the right to a family life. That is one of the reasons why we have our efforts to take migrants back to the continent frustrated. He hasn't got that problem in America. He's willing to use the military in ways we wouldn't. He's enforcing a land border, we've got a sea border, that's harder to enforce. But yeah, lessons here, I think, for the Prime Minister, from the President. Note that guy there, Donald Trump, he loves this country, he's proud of his roots to Scotland through his mother, he loves coming here, he's an Anglophile President. That's a great thing for this country and helps us with getting those deals done, that investment on AI, on quantum that we heard earlier from Donald Trump. But definitely a lesson there in maybe just throwing off the shackles, Keir Starmer, and stop those boats, because in my view, if he can't stop those boats, that'll be the single reason why he might lose the next general election.
Chris Hope, I think you're exactly right. And as we await the presidential chopper to land, Marine One, I'd like to bid farewell to you, our chopper. Thank you very much, Chris Hope there, live from Chequers. You've been magnificent as ever. Now let's get back to the studio. I'm joined by Steve McCabe. Steve, welcome to the studio. Always a pleasure to have your company as we await Donald Trump to arrive. I wanted to put that point. Let's start with the fact. Do you think that this has been a success as far as Sir Keir Starmer goes? Do you think he'll be happy with this state visit? He got away with it relatively unscathed, even in that press conference at the end there.
Well, I think most people would say this has been a bit of a diplomatic triumph. You know, America is an important ally, and we have a slightly unpredictable president, if I can say that. So it's very important that we build a strong alliance with them.
And Lord Steve McCabe, of course, just give you a correct intro, Labour member of the House of Lords. Live pictures on our screen there of two Chinooks. Also heading towards Stansted Airport. One of those Chinooks, astonishingly, has Bev Turner on board, GB News' correspondent, who's, I think, become the apple of the eye of Donald Trump. Bev Turner got the first question. Donald Trump handpicked her from the world's media today at Chequers. Let's get back to you, Lord Steve McCabe. Some of these problems, though, they're not going to go away. And primarily, let's be absolutely blunt about this. Illegal immigration has been an absolute dog's dinner under this government. The numbers are going through the roof. And if it's worth celebrating at the fourth attempt, getting one Indian off the tarmac of Britain, we're in a sorry state.
Well, I mean, look, it was a problem before Labour came to power. It's still a problem now. No one's pretending anything different. I think it's important that the return scheme with the French is put into practice. And even if it is only one, I mean, it's showing where we're trying to go. And obviously, I mean, for the future, we need a better return deal with places like India.
Why haven't we got one already? Why on earth have we got to fly an Indian to Charles de Gaulle, to Paris, so they can fly him back to India, and in return we have to take an asylum seeker? It's ludicrous.
Well, I have no idea about the individual, but of course a lot of these individuals arrive in this country without any papers, any documentation, and part of the problem is establishing who they are and where they're from.
As we can see live pictures now of those two Chinooks about to land at Stansted Airport as the sun goes down. Quite magnificent sights of the sheer size and power and grandeur of American might. That's what all this is about, the optics, the projection of strength, of confidence. And as they land, behind them, Marine One will follow with Donald Trump and the First Lady on board. Lord Steve McCabe, let's get back to some politics here. As well as immigration, something that undeniably would have made Ed Miliband, not for the first time, choke on a bacon sandwich, was the announcement from Donald Trump that he believes Britain should drill, baby, drill. And you cannot dodge the fact that with billions of dollars worth of AI investment on British soil, with American companies with massive energy bills, one of the biggest costs of AI companies is the huge electricity bills, pretty soon they're going to go, hang on a minute, electricity costs an absolute fortune in Britain, and if we want the price to come down, we should drill, baby, drill.
Well, of course, the oil that is extracted from the North Sea goes into the international market, so it doesn't in itself automatically bring electricity prices down in this country. It's certainly a component to our energy mix, and I don't deny that. In my own view is we maybe need a better medium-term policy as prices are rising at the moment. But the long-term goal of the green energy policy is to make us self-sufficient.
Yeah, but we're not self-sufficient at the moment, and instead we're importing oil from halfway around the world. We're paying over the odds for it, and surely a sensible government would revisit the allocation of licences, put them out to tenure so British companies get them first, so there are British jobs, onshore jobs. But I put it to you, Lord McCabe, people like Ed Miliband are wedded to the zealotry of net zero and hang the price.
Well, as I say, there may well be an argument for having a better medium-term policy, but there's no point in pretending that because we drill oil and take it from the North Sea, that in itself directly brings down electricity prices here.
But it
because
could do
it
if we
doesn't. They go onto the international market.
But if we change the framework of how that was legislated, we could do that.
Well, I think
a bold government could. Donald Trump did.
Well, we're not actually in the same position as the United States, to be perfectly fair.
Yeah, because we're getting ripped off for our energy bills. And it's going to become a huge issue, not just for consumers, but for gigantic businesses. Can I also ask for your take on Palestine? A clear fracture, pressure point between the two leaders. Keir Starmer seems hell-bent on recognising Palestine, as does Macron, Australia, Spain, Ireland. Donald Trump thinks that's rewarding terrorism.
Well, I have to confess I'm a bit sceptical about the current policy. I think it's always been the aim to recognise a Palestinian state as part of a two-state solution. But of course the objective in that is to have a recognisable Palestinian state, with agreed borders, with a stable and non-terrorist leadership. And it's very difficult to see other than the gesture, exactly what will be achieved by recognising Palestine at this stage.
Thank you very much, Lord McCabe. Please stick with us. I'd like to bring in my next guest now, if I could. Just to repeat, live pictures on your screen from Stansted Airport there of Air Force One, the craft that will take the first couple back to the United States. It's magnificent, simply a magnificent thing. And we're waiting for Marine One to come in with the President and the First Lady to get them on board there. Let's get to my next guest now, the Liberal Democrat MP for West Dorset, Edward Morello. Edward, thank you for joining us. What leapt out of the press conference for you? Why don't we start on that topic of North Sea oil? If we want to get cheap energy in Britain, we need to drill, baby, drill.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the way forward. Cheap energy is renewable energy. Renewable energy is across the board per unit generated by far and away the cheapest form of energy. And that's why developing as much renewable energy as rapidly as possible is the quickest way to bring down energy bills.
How does that tally with the fact that our energy is 150 times more? It's 150% compared to the unit cost on the European Union mainland, the beloved EU by you. We're getting ripped off. And we're getting ripped off because we're relying on what Donald Trump called wind farms are an expensive joke.
Well, I'm not sure the President is across the per unit cost of generation if he thinks that's the case, because wind is significantly cheaper than the market gas price, which is what's driving our energy bills at the moment. By far and away, the simplest thing to do is to decouple the price that we are paying for renewable energy from the wholesale gas market, which leads to these wild fluctuations in prices, results in us having extremely high energy prices. The more renewable energy we generate, the less reliant we are on foreign imported gas, and the less we're going to pay.
Edward, those wild fluctuations wouldn't be a thing if we had our own vast resources untapped. That's what's driven the economic powerhouse
Hang
of
on.
the
Firstly,
United
we
States.
don't have vast resources on tap because the North Sea oil reserves are almost completely empty at the moment anyway.
Shale?
What is left is going to be extremely expensive to get out because it's now heavy oil and it costs more per unit to get out. You're also still going to be selling that on the international market. So it's still going to be linked to the international market price, whereas what we're generating onshore is our own.
OK, Edward Morello, let's talk about Palestine. Keir Starmer seems hell-bent on the recognition of the Palestinian state, something I believe Ed Davey, your leader, is also hell-bent upon. Donald Trump quite simply says that would reward Hamas, it would reward terrorism.
It would also put us alongside the vast majority of the world. 147 out of 195 members of the UN have recognized a Palestinian state. We are an outlier at the moment, as is France, despite the fact that Britain and France have historical ties to the Middle East since the Balfour Agreement, since our having the Palestinian mandate after the war. We have an obligation, if we firmly believe in a two-state solution, to have two states to recognise.
But Hamas don't want a two-state solution. They want to eradicate the entire Jewish existence. They don't want a two-state solution.
Nobody is proposing recognising Hamas as part of this. Hamas are a proscribed terrorist organisation. We would never dream of recognising them. Hamas can have no part in the future of a Palestinian state. Every single side, aside from Hamas, have come to that conclusion, including all of the Arab states who are involved in the trying to get a peace process going. Everyone I've spoken to, and I've travelled widely in the Middle East as in my role as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, have said exactly that. Hamas can have no future in future governance of Gaza or Palestine as a whole.
You know, if somebody invaded where you live and murdered and raped and kidnapped 1,200 people, do you think it'd be a good idea to reward those people with their own state?
No one is saying that we are recognising Hamas, and there is a clear difference between Hamas and the Palestinian people. And I think there is a rather nefarious attempt to conflate Palestinian people with Hamas terrorists, and that is not the same thing. When you start identifying an entire population by a minority extremist group, you end up with no pathway to a peaceful solution.
But they were the
best
government,
thing we can
the
do
ruling
for the
class
Palestinian
of the entire country
is to liberate them from the rule of Hamas. That is the best solution for the Palestinian people, is to release them from the rule of this terrorist organisation if they're to have any future at all.
I think we can all agree on that, but my point to you would be, how on earth would we know if the people just would dissolve into the population and become members of it? We would never be able to tell. Look, thanks for joining us on the show today. That's the Liberal Democrats MP.
That's not what the Middle East countries are talking about.
How would you know if a terrorist today was just a rank and file civilian tomorrow? It's nonsense. They could melt into the population. Why should we take that risk for the sake of Israel? We have managed to do it in Northern Ireland
and create a peaceful solution in Northern Ireland.
The Northern Irish didn't invade and butcher 1,200 people and rape and murder and hold hostages, which they've treated like animals.
You're comparing apples and pears, Edward Morello.
Apples
and yet we still managed to come to a peaceful solution.
OK, well, let's leave it there. Thanks for your company. That's the Liberal Democrat MP for West Dorset, Edward Morello. Earlier on today, during the press conference between the US President and Prime Minister Donald Trump, Trump advised Keir Starmer of the use of the military to help stop small boat crossings. Well, let's now speak with the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. Chris Philp, thanks for waiting patiently there as I locked horns with a Liberal Democrat. I do enjoy the sport of it. Back to this topic, on a serious point, are we at the stage now where things are so perilous we should be thinking about using perhaps the Royal Navy to stop the boats?
Well, good afternoon, Martin. What we need to do is make sure that every single person who crosses the English Channel illegally gets immediately removed without any messing around in the courts. If every single person, or virtually every single person, got rapidly removed, either to their country of origin if possible, or a safe third location like Rwanda, but it could be anywhere if not, pretty soon they will stop crossing at all. This new gimmick deal that Labour have with France, not only is mired in legal challenges this week, nobody was removed on Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, one person was removed today. So it's not really working. But even if they manage to do what they set out to do, which is remove 50 people a week, that amounts to only 6% of arrivals. Now, letting 94% of people who cross the channel illegally stay here is obviously no deterrent at all. Their scheme is a ludicrous gimmick, so we need to remove everybody. Now, we had a plan to do that, which Labour very stupidly cancelled just after the election, just a couple of weeks before the first plane was due to take off. Labour had no replacement plan for that, and as a result, numbers have surged, and this year so far has been the worst in history for illegal migrants crossing the channel. Anyway, the solution, as I say, remove everybody as soon as they arrive, and then the deterrent effect means they will stop attempting it. And I've got evidence that works. I mean, firstly, common sense tells you it works, obviously, but more than that, Australia did something very similar about 12 or 13 years ago. They called it Operation Sovereign Borders. That worked within 2 or 3 months. And in fact, more recently, in just the last 6 months, the United States, it's appropriate to say this while we look at a picture of Air Force One, the United States of America started doing something very similar back in January when the new administration were elected, with illegal immigrants crossing their southern border. And that has now almost completely stopped. I discussed that with Vice President J.D. Vance in Oxfordshire in August, and it worked pretty quickly. Within about 4 months, it stopped.
Chris Phil, of course, people watching this would say, well, you had 14 years to do all of that and that wasn't put into place. We've got live pictures there from Stansted Airport, Air Force One on the tarmac. We're awaiting Marine One, the presidential helicopter, to hove interview with the President on board and the First Lady. And I think the comparison here is bleak and it's stark. We've got Air Force One there and we've got Air Farce One with the United Kingdom. 4 attempts to get a solitary Indian immigrant cherry-picked by the French because they have a returns deal with India, and in return we've still got to take an asylum seeker back from France. Chris Phil, why on earth haven't we got our own returns deal with India so we can send these people directly back to their own country?
Well, I think the crazy thing is we do have an agreement with India, and the government, if they had a tiny ounce of common sense, would have sent this particular gentleman back to India using the agreement we've got. Instead, they send him to France, who will then themselves send him to India, and in return for that, we're going to get somebody, an illegal immigrant in France, from a nationality that we won't be able to return, for example, Afghan or Eritrean or something like that. So this whole thing is completely ludicrous. And as I said earlier, returning this tiny fraction of people who've crossed the channel will not have a deterrent effect at all. I think since they announced this deal in early July, just a shade under 10,000 illegal immigrants have crossed in the last 8 weeks, 8 or 9 weeks. 10,000 in just 8 weeks. And Labour are claiming sending back a handful is going to make a difference. I mean, they're taking us all for fools. It's a gimmick, and it is quite clearly completely ridiculous.
Chris Phil, I want to press you on free speech. Bev Turner asked that question, saying 12,000 people in the United Kingdom find themselves getting a knock on the door from the old bill because of free speech. Keir Starmer resolutely insisted there wasn't a problem with free speech in Britain, but we've seen today an American woman get a knock on the door from the old bill for a Facebook post. Do you think we are in a perilous situation about free speech in the United Kingdom and the Labour Party?
Yes, we are in a perilous situation, and the fact that Keir Starmer is in denial is ridiculous. I mean, the case we saw today, the one you mentioned, which was exposed by Toby Young and the Free Speech Union, who do excellent work, is just illustrates how absurd. Oh, look, I think that's Marine One flying in there. It shows how... Oh, no, that's a Chinook. Sorry, I'm wrong. That's a Chinook. It just shows how ridiculous the situation is when someone expresses an opinion, like a legal, valid opinion, which they're perfectly entitled to express on Facebook, and suddenly the police come around and try and coerce or intimidate the poor lady into issuing an apology. That obviously infringes her free speech. It's heavy-handed. It is frankly harassment. And those police officers should be, of course, chasing real criminals. They should be catching shoplifters or mobile phone thieves or car thieves or people who are committing actual criminal offences. I think this is outrageous. It's one of the reasons why we Conservatives in Parliament, actually working with Toby Young, who's in the House of Lords now, we tabled legislation to abolish these ridiculous non-crime hate incidents, just abolish them completely. But Labour, needless to say, voted against that in the House of Commons just a few weeks ago. It's out of control. It's got to stop. The police should catch real criminals, not be policing Twitter and Facebook.
And I think we can now see Marine One hoving into view there, Chris Phil, that magnificent...
I think that is Marine One, and that will have that will have come down from Chequers, won't it, if they were in Chequers earlier?
Correct. It airlifted off from Chequers. Our own chopper was on the ground there, Chris Hope, as it took off. It's about to land at Stansted. Well, as the sun sets on this second state visit, this historic state visit, I'd like to ask you one final question. That is about the recognition of the state of Palestine, something which Donald Trump is vehemently opposed to. What's your take on it as Conservative Party? Should we recognise Palestine as a state, or is that rewarding terrorism?
Well, I think first, before that happens, Hamas need to be removed completely from any, removed completely, frankly, but removed from any sort of control of Gaza. All of the hostages need to be released. There are still hostages who are being held by Hamas in Gaza. Those things need to happen first. Of course, we need to make sure the civilians in Gaza are looked after as well. Once that has happened, then obviously I think a two-state solution where there is a safe and secure Israel and a sovereign Palestinian state is what needs to happen. Recognised, but the first step has got to be the removal of Hamas and the release of those hostages.
Isn't that just pie in the sky? As we see Marine One now landing at Stansted, it's pie in the sky to say that you can simply eradicate Hamas and there'll be no more radicalisation. Nobody left in Palestine would have been radicalised by them. Everything will be democratised. Everything will be made like this liberal, wonderful playground. No future threat. Chris Philp, that's a fantasy.
Well, as I say, the priority has to be the removal of Hamas, which, as you pointed out to that Lib Dem MP a minute or two ago, is a proscribed, a banned terrorist organisation. Those hostages need to be released as well. They've been held now for getting on nearly 2 years, which is heartbreaking. That needs to be the priority. But I think ultimately, you know, the position of the UK government has, under both parties, has been we want to work towards a two-state solution. But as I said, getting rid of the Hamas terrorists and getting those hostages released has to be the first step, and that obviously hasn't happened.
OK, Chris Philp, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much. As Marine One touches down at Stansted Airport, live pictures there on your screen. Bid you farewell. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp, thanks for joining us. Let's get back to the studio. I'm still joined by Lord Steve McCabe, Labour peer. Lord McCabe, as Marine One lands there, what are your thoughts looking back on this state visit? Sir Keir Starmer and Donald Trump on paper are very, very odd bedfellows, and yet they seem to have developed at least something of a bonhomie.
Yes, and I thought it looked pretty genuine looking at the pictures. Look, these things happen in politics. It's not always the case that the most likely characters develop relationships. And, you know, Keir gets a lot of criticism from many people, but actually, you know, he has been very determined about his approach to the presidency and about our need to maintain this alliance with the United States, and I think he's done a very good job.
You think a lot of the sort of sixth form attitude we saw from a lot of Labour MPs in opposition, you know, preposterously calling Donald Trump a fascist, a KKK sympathiser. This is your present Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, I'm talking about. Other MPs calling him a fascist, a Nazi. When reality bites, this man that they loathe has hoved into view with $350 billion worth of transatlantic trade. You know, whether the Labour Party like him or not, he's our greatest asset in terms of trade, in terms of peace, in terms of security. Are those Labour and parliamentarians now just should take a long look in the mirror and say, stop being so sixth form and puerile and get with the programme?
Well, lots of people say things in opposition that are much easier than when you're in government, including lots of American politicians who've said quite a few things about this country. So I think the important thing is America is our key ally, and whoever is the President of the United States, it's the British Prime Minister's job to make sure he develops a good working relationship. And if you can take it one step further by having a genuine connection, as Keir Starmer seems to have done, then that's a damn good thing.
Live pictures there off Stansted Airport. Lord McCabe about to open those doors and Donald Trump will emerge with the First Lady, Melania Trump. May I ask you how they must be feeling in Brussels looking on at this? The beloved Brussels of Sir Keir Starmer, of course, 3 years heading up the People's Vote campaign to cancel Brexit. We've just landed a trade deal with America that Brussels can only dream of. They must be crying into their croissants in Brussels and Strasbourg looking at this, because like in Olympic, the special relationship counts for something. And there's 350 billion reasons why it was a good idea to Brexit.
Well, I mean, this is absolutely a good deal for the UK. That's absolutely true. And the money and the jobs is really important. I mean, the truth is we also need to have some better relations with the EU, because there are money and jobs tied up in that as well.
Pictures there of just about to see, I believe, the President emerge with the First Lady, the doors thrown open to Marine One. Just repeat again what a majestic aircraft that is. There we go, the inner door is open. The President advises the first down the steps there. We're waiting the President to come out. Lord McCabe, it's a majestic display of power, of superpower. These aircraft, all part of the optics.
Yes, it is fantastic. I mean, as you say, Air Force One is a magnificent craft. But actually, I think the blend of this kind of American power that we're witnessing here and what we saw yesterday with British pageantry was actually the thing that brought this together and made it work. You know, we were also able to demonstrate just what we bring to the table.
And I do think, and I've stated this repeatedly, and I think it was a masterstroke by Keir Starmer to get that handwritten letter from King Charles from his inside pocket, a dramatic flurry, which I think many world leaders could only have dreamed of having such an easy passage in the White House. And how do you get the hearts? How do you woo a billionaire who can afford anything? Here he is, that billionaire who can afford everything. Donald J. Trump emerging from Marine One with Melania Trump, who's looked simply magnificent this entire visit, in my opinion. Her style has been spot on, that wonderful suede jacket. Donald Trump, of course, in his trademark red tie, holding the First Lady's hand. And there's been a lot of windy conditions, Lord McCabe, but these past couple of days, and Donald Trump's hair for now just about staying in place.
Yes, I don't know who does it, but it's very effective.
Waving there to the press corps, and of course 2 Chinooks flew in, and astonishingly one of them contained our very own Bev Turner. The press corps was ferried from Chequers to Stansted in those US military Chinooks. Again, astonishing display of the brute power of American military. A final handshake, looks like, from Donald Trump bidding farewell to Great Britain. And Lord McCabe, as the first couple of America begin their steps towards the steps up to Air Force One. Do you think this has been a success, not only for Keir Starmer, this state visit, but for the United Kingdom PLC?
Yes, I mean, I think you could tell from the things that the President said that, you know, he genuinely enjoyed it. He was genuinely involved, and he really appreciated it. And I think, you know, this, as you say, is an exceedingly powerful individual, and he's also a very wealthy man who's got everything. But he got something
Steve
from
McKay,
us.
just for those at home, Donald Trump and Melania Trump there alighting, going up the steps of Air Force One. They customary get to the top and they'll turn and give one final wave to the UK press, to United Kingdom there. Donald Trump waving goodbye, pointing out one of his favourites, pumping his fist, waving. Melania also waving in her movie star sunglasses. The first couple of the United States, the most powerful couple on the planet, getting into Air Force One. The inner door closes. That is their sanctuary. That is their kingdom in flight. And Bev Turner, the press corps now, we can see all merging on. President, of course, always first on to that aircraft. They'll be enjoying presidential comfort on the way back. And Lord McCabe, again, just to repeat, a huge trade deal has been done with Britain. And I put it to you again, this cements the fact that putting your politics to one side, putting your silly name-calling to one side that we've seen from Labour parliamentarians towards Donald Trump. Sadiq Khan, by the way, needs to get a life and stop doing that. He's still calling him far right. How many billions of pounds could have been pumped into London if Labour's London mayor hadn't been quite so immature and puerile towards Donald Trump? That's for another conversation. But on a serious point, doesn't this prove that our true ally on the global stage, be it diplomatic, be it financial, is the United States of America, not Brussels?
Well, I think proves that America is a vital ally for this country. I think America is also a vital ally for Europe, and particularly at a time when Putin is causing so many problems. I think that is crucial. I think what Keir Starmer is doing is proving to be the bridge between Europe and the United States, and I think that is extremely important. But actually, if you go back to the name calling and all of that, I mean, the important thing to remember is Donald Trump is a businessman, and when it comes to the crunch, what he cares about is getting a good deal. So I don't think all this stuff about name calling and who said what and what might have been done X months or years ago, I think the guy wants to know, am I getting a decent deal and can I trust these people to deliver? And I think that's what we saw today.
I put it to you that that's very fortuitous for the Labour Party. You're dead right. I think all this name calling, Donald Trump is so used to it. It's almost a pea shooter against a tank. It pings off his armour. It's a part of his existence. But it's very, very lucky that he's able to forgive people like David Lammy for comparing him to a fascist. Very, very lucky that he turned a blind eye to Angela Rayner, very vocally campaigning that he shouldn't be allowed to have his first state visit. It's very fortuitous that it's about the art of the deal and that Donald Trump doesn't take things personally because, let's be frank, it was ridiculous.
Well, as I say, I think when you're in government, you have to adopt a grown-up, realistic approach to politics. It's rather different in opposition, but it's not all one way. I mean, there have been things said about this country. In fact, not that long ago, the Vice President was kind of dismissing our role in the Second World War, People say things, but the reality is you have to concentrate on what's really going to make a difference. That's what the last couple of days has been about. It's about Britain working with a key ally and making sure that we cement that relationship.
Do you think it's going to be... The whole work starts tomorrow morning for Keir Starmer. It's been a couple of days of pageantry, a couple of days have been to take a break from what's been an absolutely tumultuous 14 months in power. Been disaster after disaster in these past few days alone. Angela Rayner having to depart office. Peter Mandelson, Sir Keir was probed about that today. He brushed it to one side, as did Donald Trump, of course. Donald Trump didn't want to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein because, of course, it's projected onto the castle there at Windsor. A huge embarrassment for the Labour Party to lose its US ambassador. These problems still remain tomorrow morning, Lord McCabe.
Well, they do, but actually things that are described as major problems have a habit of actually disappearing quite quickly in politics because there's always something else coming up. I mean, most people would concede that Peter Mandelson did a pretty good job as the ambassador in the United States, but he had to go, and that is life and that is politics. I think that what Labour needs to concentrate on is what are we doing about migration, what are we doing about the economy, and what are we doing about cutting people's bills and raising living standards. And I think that's what Keir Starmer will be thinking about tomorrow.
Good. Thank you very much, Lord Steve McCabe. I tell you what, I think Sir Keir Starmer's primary emotion from here will be phew. Thank God it's over. He got through these past 2 days without there being any major political embarrassment. Sometimes he does have that Dalek-like personality. You have to admit he was slated for how long his sleeves were on his suits. Every single thing that you do is under the world's microscope. And I think Sir Keir Starmer now might be sitting down and just kind of kicking off his loafers and thinking, I got away unscathed.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he enjoyed it. I mean, I really don't know. I don't know. I think he will be saying that it's a job well done. I think that will be his feeling.
Lord Steve McCabe, thank you for sitting in for so long and giving us some commentary. It's very, very much appreciated. Thank you for your time, as ever. Live pictures there from Stansted Airport. We can see Air Force One taxiing down the runway. In a short while, we'll be taking off, heading back to Maryland, the most powerful couple on the planet, about to leave Great Britain. I'm delighted to introduce my next guest now. What a guest. It's the founder and the chairman of JD Wetherspoons. It's Sir Tim Martin on what is a special day, not only for your company as you slash the prices for the day, and of course, all across the country. Sir Tim Martin, we're about to have liftoff at Stansted Airport, and you're about to have liftoff at Wetherspoons customers because you're slashing your prices. Tell us about it.
Well, we're very keen to draw people's attention to the fact that pubs pay a lot more tax, especially VAT, than supermarkets. So once a year we lower the prices by quite a few percent to draw attention to the problem and hope that the public's behind us, which they don't look too unhappy when they pay less. Isn't that a surprise?
As Tim, of course, your prices are already low, but how low are they today? Tell us about the price of a pint and some grub.
Well, it does vary throughout the country, but there'll be one or two beers in most of the suburbs and small and medium-sized towns around the country for not too much over £1.50. So it's back to the 1990s in a way.
Talking about back to the 1990s, I bet you wish for a tax regime that wasn't quite punitive. So punitive on hospitality. You've been hammered by national insurance hikes. You've been hammered by VAT, and we're moving towards November the 26th. Could be a punishing budget. What would you like to see the Chancellor do?
I'd like tax equality with supermarkets, where they don't pay any VAT on food, and I think that should be the same for pubs. And let's say bring the duty on beer down to the European average, and I'll buy Keir Starmer a pint. I might even buy one for Rachel Reeves.
Well, I mean, I think they should take it, especially at your prices. So, Tim Martin, just so I can talk over some pictures on our screen here. Air Force One is about to take off from Stansted Airport. Donald Trump and Melania Trump going back to the United States. Tim Martin, I know in the past, Tim, you've dabbled with a bit of politics. The political direction of our country right now, what do you think of it?
Well, I think democracy's a messy system, but it's a very good system, and it produces by far the greatest prosperity and by far the greatest levels of freedom. So we get frustrated with those in charge, but it's important to recognise we're very lucky we can speak out on programmes like this in the newspapers. So every day I wake up I say, thank God we live in a democracy for all its faults.
Mr. Tim Martin, Bev Turner from GBNews put it to Keir Starmer today that there are still 1,200 people every year getting in trouble with the police about social media posts. Are you concerned that freedom of speech may be dissolving?
Well, it's very important that it doesn't dissolve. And one of the things that is required for good solutions is debate, and debate means free speech, and that's why we're so successful. So I really hope that free speech lives forever.
And may I ask you, one of the things we heard about in the new Workers' Rights Bill from Angela Rayner, formerly of this parish as Deputy PM, of course, was the notion that there might be banter police in pubs. For example, if somebody hears something in a pub they don't like, it could put people like you in charge. So governments really be policing pub banter.
I think that's a crazy idea. Pubs are known for banter, football's known for banter. I think it won't stop people, and it'll put people in the front line, like publicans, pub staff, in jeopardy. So too much Big Brother. Cool it, Angela, that's what I'd say.
And so, Tim Martin, if you were to get Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves down to one of your wonderful hostelries and sit down and buy them a bargain price pint, what would you talk about to them?
I'd say, look, people, put away your colouring books and crayons, listen to Timbo, got to get the taxes reduced, people in work, nice to have a pint with you, but we need action.
We certainly do need action, and thank you for joining us on today's show, Sir Tim Martin, and crack down to your local Wetherspoons to enjoy some bargain price booze. Thank you very much, Sir Tim Martin there, the chairman, of course, and the founder of JD Wetherspoons. Now, we have those live pictures on your screen now. Air Force One beginning its final taxi on Stansted. Donald Trump and Melania Trump about to depart the United Kingdom. Live pictures there as the sun comes out on Air Force One. It wasn't sunny at all yesterday at Windsor. It was blustery. But Donald Trump spoke so movingly earlier on about the special relationship. He called this a moment to celebrate the unique bond for a new era. He said, we stand together as first partners on defence, on trade, and now on science and on tech. Donald Trump said the United Kingdom and the United States of America have done more good on this planet than any countries in history. We are always friends. And isn't that wonderful to hear that proud, patriotic burst from Donald Trump on British soil as Air Force One now rolls down the runway and she's away. Air Force One has taken off, left British soil, majestic machine roaring towards Maryland, leaving behind so many questions for the Prime Minister to answer on immigration. Donald Trump advising Sir Keir Starmer, if necessary, send in the military, something that a lot of our viewers no doubt would concur is a good idea. Drill, baby, drill, he advised, if you ever want to have the hope of cheap energy. He talked movingly once again of his mother being Scottish. He talked about how he loved this country, and he believes that the future to prosperity is to be energy sovereign. Let's use more of British oil from the North Sea, something which will make, no doubt, Ed Miliband once again choke on his bacon sandwich. He called Sir Keir Starmer a tough negotiator. This is a better deal for you than it is for us. Of course, he referred to that 350 billion worth of trade going across the Atlantic. Huge investment from Microsoft, from Nvidia, from Apple, giving thousands of jobs on British soil, we believe as many as 7,000. And the chair of Microsoft saying that this could add 10% to British GDP within 10 or even 5 years. AI being the huge future driver. AI dependent on cheap electricity, a huge problem for Sir Keir Starmer, for Sir Tim Martin, for every British household. We pay 150% higher on our energy bills as compared to continental Europe. Will Sir Keir Starmer drill, baby, drill? Will he protect free speech? Will he listen to Donald Trump on recognising Palestine as a state, something Donald Trump is vehemently opposed against? Will he call Vladimir Putin, he said, who has let him down? Donald Trump now flies back towards America. I think we can all agree it's been a majestic 2 days of pomp and pageantry. Nobody does it better in the world than Great Britain. Thanks to everybody who's come and said hello to us yesterday in Windsor. Truly marvellous to meet you and have your company. But don't go anywhere, because up next is Jubes & Co., the queen of primetime debate, and I'll be back at 7. I'll see you then. Have a fantastic evening. Next is Jubes & Co. But first, here's your weather.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Road users should exercise caution on the M90 Friarton Bridge due to high winds. In northeast Lincolnshire, an accident on the A180 westbound exit Slip Road to the A160 has closed all lanes, expected to resolve later this evening. St Helens reports a broken-down vehicle on the M6 northbound exit at junction 23, causing lane closures. In Surrey, a road traffic collision on the M3 eastbound between junction 3 and junction 2 has closed one lane. And on the trains, East Midlands Railway is not running services between Cleethorpes and Barton-on-Humber, while there is disruption on the Elizabeth line at London Paddington. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dubes & Co.
It's a blueprint to win this new era together.
You have it. Many deals done on the business end of President Trump's state visit, so let's take a look at that. At the press conference afterwards, Donald Trump, though, said this.
Destroys countries from within.
Yeah, he was talking about illegal migration. He urged Starmer to use whatever means necessary to stop it, including even the military. And today, we've finally seen a successful migrant deportation flight. Is this the beginning, then, of the end? Let's hope so, because also today, we have learned that the hotel migrant convicting of raping a woman is actually also an Islamist terrorist. You couldn't even make this stuff up. Meanwhile, over on the left, the Corbyn Sultana, your party. Got to tell you, it's all kicking off there. It seems that Corbyn might be on the brink of suing Sultana, and Sultana has called their new alliance, I quote, a sexist boys' club. Oh dear. I've got all of that and lots more keeping me company. My panel tonight, I've got the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie, and I've got the former Labour Party chair, Baroness Hayter. But before we get stuck in, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you, and good evening to you. The top story tonight at 6. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has said Britain fiercely protects free speech, but claims there is a line when it incites real harm. Standing alongside the US President Donald Trump earlier, he said freedom of speech is a founding value that the UK will always protect. But he stressed the limit is with those who peddle paedophilia to children online. GB News presenter Bev Turner pressed him on disagreements with Donald Trump and raised concerns over thousands of arrests each year under communications laws.
I draw a limit between free speech and the speech of those that want to peddle paedophilia and suicide social media to children, and therefore I'm all for free speech. I'm also for protecting children from things that will harm them.